Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. Now, it's been around 6 months since this bad boy came out, and I figured if anything, this is probably one of the better times for me to go give a proper, in-depth, and honest review when it comes to what I have experienced with my PlayStation 5, if I'd still recommend you guys to go get one, and overall, just kind of my thoughts, a little bit of critiques, and overall, the good and bads when it comes to all the brand new next-gen consoles. Now, I do always want to remind you guys, my channel is a bit more focused up on Sony itself, like PlayStation, Sony News, etc., and we do cover a lot more of the restock news, but of course, as well, I'm also a PC gamer, I have a Switch, and of course, as well, I always like a lot of the Microsoft games too. So I'll be like maybe a very slightly biased, but I'm gonna try my best to keep this as level-headed and as in-depth as I possibly can. As well, if any of you guys are brand new, we do a lot of actual restocking news and Sony news, so if that interests you, I would love to have you guys subscribe with the notifications on, or if you guys are still trying to get your consoles, this is probably hopefully a good place to go and do it. As well, we also do have a PS5 giveaway that's going to be ending very soon, so make sure you guys get your last-minute subscriptions on in. Leave a like if you guys enjoy that video. We have a lot of affiliate links down below with the Amazons and all that good stuff for the PS5 controllers, the brand new controllers, and as well the Twitter and Twitch if you guys would like to go and follow or sign up for Webull and Coinbase for free affiliate money. So we're going to go down to the actual video itself, and if you guys agree or disagree, please go leave your comments down below. So of course, I always want to go and touch on this first of all, is on you can't really necessarily judge or review a console yourself unless you can actually go and buy one. That's probably one of the first major points, which is not necessarily critiquing the console itself, we'll get to that, but more so just it's really hard to actually go get the console. And we've been trying our best to go and track them, and a lot of people over time have actually gotten their consoles, which is great, but I think for both the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, a lot of these reviews for a lot of folks out there would probably appreciate a lot more if it was more readily available. Now, we do know it's probably one of the fastest selling consoles of all time, even in comparison to the PS4, so it's always a nice sign to go and note, but I would definitely, and I think a lot of you guys would agree, wish that the console was a little bit more readily available. Now, that may not necessarily go and lower down my overall review score, but it is something to note that it is really hard to go find the Xbox and the PS5, so just for the general vibe on that, I do want to go and kind of bring a little bit on the negative side. Things that matter though is the pandemic, we get it, but that is something that's kind of hard to go and get. But now for the actual console itself, for the actual review. So I do want to go and say one major quick thing. Games. As of right now, we are now finally getting into the actual AAA games, and we're kind of finally seeing the PlayStation take advantage of all this stuff. But for a very long time, within the first around 5 months or so from this console's release, same with the Xbox, the amount of exclusives were very, very minimal. And I do think that's a major critique, and I think something a lot of people should have noted when they were trying to get their consoles beforehand. And I do definitely think in terms of me actually using my PS5, it's gone down a lot in terms of most games that come on out, I'd rather just go play up on PC. Good example is Resident Evil Village. I just ended up being that up on PC. But the one nice thing is that, and we'll get to this later on, is that any game that actually does come out for all these consoles and multi-platform usually do run really good on both the PS5 and Xbox. But that's one major thing, is like, why would I want to buy a PlayStation over, say, an Xbox or a Switch when I don't have any specific games to basically go and utilize? So for the very first, I'd say 4 or 5 months when it comes to the PlayStation 5 life cycle, it was very low. Like, I'm talking like 5 out of 10 if best, because all we had was Demon's Souls and Miles Morales, which are both very good games on their own, but once you go and beat those games within maybe, say, a week or two, what do you do then with your console? Now, for me, especially because you play a lot of these games up on the PS4, if you already had a PS4, it just basically seems like a slightly upgraded PS4 when it comes to me for the PS5. So that was one major issue I had for quite some time, and that definitely kind of cut down my score. But now it kind of more so goes into the next gen is finally starting. We had Returnal, which also as a secondary note made really good usage of the DualSense controller, and now that we're seeing all these AAA games, we also have Ratchet & Clank coming out in about a month or so. Now it's starting to get a lot more interesting. So now we can kind of go and start revitalizing the console, and people that already have had their console sitting around for quite a few days or weeks or months, they can now replug it on in and start using it unless they were already using it actively already. So it's a big thing too with more exclusives and also a lot more games being worked on throughout this year, such as God of War, the new Horizon, and a bunch of other games cool like Kenna that will be coming out throughout this year. That kind of does bump up the score a little bit, and it does make me feel a bit better and more, I guess, prominent for the PlayStation 5 exclusives, because that's the main reason why I myself wanted to have a PS5 and buy a PS5. So now that we're starting to see these next-gen games that are specifically just for the PS5 come out, it is making me a little bit more happy about my actual purchase. Right now, I'd probably go put the PS5 at probably around like a 7 out of 10, and you guys might be surprised on that because I do a lot of restock focus and all of that. But as I mentioned, a lot of games I'm more so playing are on PC, or if you also had a PS4 already, you're not necessarily missing out on much besides, as of now, just Returnal. But that score is going to probably go bump up a little bit more in the very near future, because whenever Ratchet & Clank comes out in June, then we actually are starting to get the kickoff of next-gen proper games, and it actually has a good reason to own your PS5. So at least we're getting closer and closer. If you guys would have said that to me maybe 3 months ago, I would have probably dogged on the PS5 a little bit more. But now that, as I mentioned, with Returnal actually running really good and running really smoothly on the console, that bumped up the game exclusive list. And also we are now seeing games that I personally would like to go and rather play, on my opinion, rather than on the Xbox as of now, because there's not really that many Microsoft exclusives that are making me very hyped up to go and play. So at least as of right now, it's getting up better, but it's still more on the lower side after all these 6 months. Now, ask me again in maybe 3 months or 6 months, that may even be up higher even more, as long as these next gen exclusives actually come in clutch. But I also kind of touched on this really quickly, is the controller. Now, if you guys know, one of the major selling points and unique points for the PlayStation 5 controller is the fact that it's unique, it's different, it's new. And I do want to go and say, now that I've actually had a chance to go and touch and play Returnal, we actually felt the difference between an old PS4 controller or an Xbox controller and the PS5. One major feature I want to go note is that the fact that we actually now have dynamic trigger control. So something, say for Returnal, if you push down halfway through the controller, it basically triggered up an alt effect that basically gave you an alt fire for the game. And if you go and hold it down fully on down, you can basically go and aim down sight as per usual. So now we're finally seeing that these controllers and these innovations are slowly actually working their ways into proper AAA games, and they've been running very good. Now, of course, it took me maybe like 20-30 minutes to get used to it, but once I was used to it, it's just second nature. As well, we've also seen other mechanics such as the rumble support, or also more so like the tension on the actual adaptive triggers. And now that we're actually seeing these games specifically made for the PS5, casually have this kind of come on out, it's basically making the console feel so much more alive and so much more immersive. And for something like this, I'll give this like a 9 out of 10. It's very, very good, and I can't wait to see how these future games are going to be basically able to go use it for the control, the rumble, the trigger support, and all the adaptive features. And this is probably one of the highlights of the PS5. And now that we finally saw this with Returnal, and hopefully we'll see it with other games too, such as God of War or Ratchet & Clank, this has very good potential for the future, and this is definitely something that I think sets the PS5 ahead of the Xbox Series X. And I love the fact they're actually using it as of now. But of course, with the controllers, there's always somewhat of major issues. We've been seeing some motor issues in terms of the motor actually breaking from the controller, the charging issues where it takes a very long time to go and charge, and also the battery dies very quickly. And overall, we've also been seeing the controller drift. Now, all these issues are hopefully able to be fixed in future generations of controllers. We've also just saw that Sony released up the brand new controllers, linked down below for the PS5 black and red controllers. So thankfully, we'll maybe go and see that kind of more get adjusted a little bit better as time goes on. But sadly, that is still a major issue and still a major complaint that I think a lot of people are still having with the consoles and controllers, and something that I think that does have to be addressed too as well at some point in the near future. And hopefully it will get better too as well. So while the controller stuff runs really good, it does have a lot of issues that will hopefully be addressed and fixed in the near future. As well, when it comes to the actual console itself, because we're kind of talking about more on the outside stuff, the console hardware is phenomenal. Now, as of right now, we do kind of know the Xbox Series X has slightly better hardware, but more so the SSD is not as fine-tuned. Right now with the PS5 SSD is phenomenal, to the point where there's basically almost no loading screens at all. And that is a major plus up for me, because I don't necessarily mind sacrificing maybe like 1 or 2 frames per second to more so have my game load faster and run faster as well, to basically just get into the game as fast as I can. On top of that, too, we also do know in terms of the PS4 to PS5, the upgrades were phenomenal. And even if you guys are playing a PS4 game into now a PS5 game, the difference is definitely there. And on top of that, too, a major critique we had for the PS4 was the fans. And the fans were always very, very loud. Same with old computers, old Xboxes. And as of right now, whenever I run on my PS5, basically everything is very quiet, very chill, and very relaxed. And I do think a lot of the hardware is very well optimized. And I'm very kind of curious to go and see how specifically made for Sony systems games are be running in the future. We've also kind of noted too as well that with the SSD running so well, it also has very good and unique architecture that basically makes the games run a little bit more smoother, especially if they're made on the Sony ecosystem themselves. Think like Sony specifically designed games, Last of Us, Ratchet & Clank, God of War, Spider-Man, etc., which is very, very nice to go and see. And I think it does make the console hold up well, even though it's just very, very slightly behind the Xbox Series X. As well, I also want to throw in some more critiques too for my overall score when it comes to the PlayStation, where it does kind of stink for the PlayStation Network. Now, it comes to the PS Plus and PS Now, because I do always want to say that the Xbox Game Pass is a phenomenal deal. It's very, very good if you have a PC or Xbox, and the amount of games that are available are astronomical. Now, we are seeing more notice on them and more focus on them, where they're trying their best to go and bring out more games and bring out more relevant games. But as of right now, the Xbox Game Pass just has it massively beat, especially if you guys are brand new gamers, or maybe you guys are trying to go play games or get games for maybe your kids, daughters, sons, or whatever, where you may not want to be blowing out $70 every day. And also when it comes to that, they also just have so many more options. But you want to go give Sony some credit that they are trying their best to do a little bit more on that and include more features and benefits with it. We also saw some stuff like that up in Poland, where they're trying to also work in Sony movies and shows as well, which would be a very nice and added benefit. And also, as I mentioned too, when it comes to overall games themselves, it's also kind of hard to go and play games with people if they don't have the consoles in general. And also crossplay has also been a little bit of an issue too as well. If you guys are majorly focused on crossplay, we kind of know that Sony themselves are kind of a little bit against crossplay. Some other things that we've kind of noticed too as well with the PS5 is also the lack of customization. So now after 6 months, you would kind of think you'd be able to go like more so make your profile your own or adjust up the profile a lot more as well. But sadly with all this, we are still waiting for them to go do more things that they had on the PS4. So it's almost like a downgrade when it comes to that. Party systems, controllers themselves, the actual UI itself, and also more background screens, animated screens, etc. Those are some of my favorite things for the PS4, and it makes me sad we still haven't seen those up for the PS5 as of yet. On top of that too, as well, when it comes to the consoles, it is also a bit on the sadder side too that the digital edition is also a little bit harder to go and find, which I would have preferred. And as well, also with the disc edition, we also are noticing that a lot of games are more so trying to push the $70 price tag. Now, a lot of these AAA games from Sony are probably very good and good games and probably will be worth the value, but is also a major critique I want to, as a gamer, would always want to bring attention to, because it does seem like paying like the extra $10 for games makes the whole situation just a little bit harder and makes me a little bit more on the sadder side because I don't want to shell out extra money, especially if it's a game I'm not 100% set on. But overall, I do think the PS5 is a good console, especially with brand new games kind of coming out in the very near future. I think it is almost getting to the point of a must-have. But for me, with the PC, I will still stand by. I'll probably play most of my games more on PC if I can. And I mainly got my PS5 for really good exclusives, mainly because for me as a Twitch streamer, a lot of people are also up on PC as well. But maybe you guys all just have the same, a lot of friends on PS5 to work out fine, or maybe you guys are in a different type of buying margin, and you guys are just trying to get a PS4 and upgrade it and have it run more efficiently for multiplayer games and future games coming on out. But overall, I'd probably give the PS5 as of right now the second and probably an 8 out of 10. I do think it's a very good console, a very well-made console, and I think it's a very good purchase to go and get, especially if you guys are gamers. I will probably definitely bump up that score a lot more when there's more AAA games coming out and whenever there's more of a wider catalog for games. So I don't think you're missing out too much if you guys are still waiting to get your console. But as we start getting this next wave of next-gen consoles, it might be a little bit more of a sought-after console because people, of course, want to go and get it. And as well, whenever they're easier to go and get, so it's easier for me to go convince people to go buy them or just walk into a store and get them, that'll probably bump up my score a little bit more. And as well, whenever the customization issues or any of those small issues, say with the controllers as well, are fixed as time goes on, then I'll definitely give this console a lot better of a score. But I do love it. I do not regret having my console, and I'm going to probably love my console throughout these next 2 or 3 months when we're starting to see more specifically made for the PS5 games coming out, such as Ratchet and Clank. So that's kind of my thoughts on this. You guys could agree or disagree. I'm sure there's a lot more I could go and talk about, but I want to make the video at least a little bit more concise on the major issues and stuff I'm kind of seeing overall. I would love to hear your thoughts down below. If you guys are still trying to get a console and all that good stuff, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on, or make sure you guys go check on the Amazon links down below for the controllers and also for the consoles themselves, the Twitter and Twitch stream if you guys would like to go and follow, and of course the Weebles and Coinbases. Sign up for Weeble, deposit $100, and you guys go get free stock, free money. Coinbase, you guys go buy $100 worth of any cryptocurrency. You guys go and get free Bitcoin. There's always linked down below. You guys all so much for watching. I'll see you guys up on the next video itself.